Fiscal drag's a real drag.
It certainly is. And what do we mean by fiscal drag? It's pretty simple, really. When you have a tax threshold, say the start where you start paying tax, if you start paying income tax, believe it or not, if you earn more than £12,570, right?
That's your personal allowance.
That's your personal allowance. If you freeze that, but then you have inflation and your wages go up, more and more of your wage and more people are dragged into above that threshold. It's the same at the top rate of tax. And what's happened today is that HMRC, the tax man, as we say, has released figures on how many more people are going to be dragged into paying income tax in the first place and into these upper tax brackets. Let's have a look at some of the numbers here. Now, under Rishi Sunak and then under Jeremy Hunt, they froze these tax thresholds until 2028. Rishi Sunak, when he was Chancellor, froze them until 2026. Then Jeremy Hunt added 2 more years. Now, they've been frozen at a starting rate of tax, the personal threshold of £12,570, and then you start paying the higher rate of, and you pay tax at 20% above that, and you pay the higher rate, 40%, above £50,270. So they're the thresholds. Now, because of inflation and increases in wages, when the thresholds are frozen, someone who's on £20,000 a year, which isn't bad, obviously, a regular wage, they're going to pay £870 more in tax. Without the rate of tax going up, that's the point. The rate stays where it is. It stays at 20%. They don't think taxes have risen, but they're going to end up paying a lot more tax because of fiscal drag. And slightly higher up the income schedule, 5.6 million people are now going to be paying the higher rate of tax. That's getting on for 20% of the workforce. These people aren't wealthy. And that's 41% more people then will be paying tax at the higher rate, even though the rates of income tax haven't changed. That's why we call it a stealth tax.
So these people who are effectively middle-income earners are being pushed into the bracket of the super wealthy.
Exactly, Pip. We're talking middling teachers, not particularly senior teachers, police officers paying the top rate of tax, some nurses paying the top rate of tax. The top rate of tax was not designed for these, with huge respect to them, regular, run-of-the-mill people. You don't have to be a top ritzy-ditzy executive now to be paying the top rate of tax. And the top rate of tax is 40 pence in the pound. And then you've got national insurance on top of that.
There is another rate ban, of course, and that's 45%.
There's the additional rate.
And now a lot of perhaps senior NHS consultants, for instance, are paying more because that's come down to 125,000.
Exactly right.
So they've actually changed the tax rate.
I didn't get into that in the graphic because it's a little bit complicated, but you're exactly right. So you've got the threshold at about 12.5 grand. You've got the top rate of tax. They call it the top rate of tax. It isn't the top one because there's another one. But the top rate of tax is just over 50 grand. The additional rate was above 150 grand, so proper money.
No, 125.
But then they lowered that to 125. So now look, I'm a highly qualified economist, right? You two are very smart people. We're spending quite a lot of time on daytime television trying to explain this. And we're 3 professional broadcasters, and it's quite hard to explain, isn't it? And this is why the politicians do it, because they think we're too thick to understand.
Do I take it that there might be more on this in the Sunday Telegraph this coming week?
Well, we'll have to see. We'll have to see, Mark, won't we? But, some people say to me, how come you can explain this stuff on telly? The reason I can is because I write about it. When you write about it, you really have to work it out in your head. And I'm absolutely determined. It's up to the British government. They're elected. If they want to raise taxes, fill your boots.
But be upfront about it.
Don't do it in a way that you expect people not to understand.
Should we just reflect that, we talk about the current government. This was something Gordon Brown instituted when he was a Labour Chancellor.
He was the master of fiscal drag, the absolute master of fiscal drag. And the problem with it is that people don't... If the top rate of tax goes up or the basic rate of income tax goes up, it's on the front page of every newspaper for a week. It's a major constitutional issue. And yet, this has much, much, much more effect. That 870 quid on 20 grand, that's the equivalent of like a 4p rise in the basic rate of income tax. And who's going to notice?
It just keeps coming at people, doesn't it, from all sides?
Exactly.
Week after week.
All sides.